Welcome to Tomahawk DIY, everyone. Today we're going to take a look at building some shelves for the garage. This will be a fairly simple and straightforward installation. You can do this with some plywood and 2x3s and 2x4s, a few screws and hangers, and it'll be a low cost but sturdy shelf installation for the garage, basement, shed, wherever you want to put the shelves. So hope you enjoy this, and let's have a look. So the first thing we're going to do is sketch out where our shelves are going to be. I'll include this on the website and with a link, but we've got a couple posts and some vertical shelves, identified the height that I'm going to put them up. And then using our tape measure, we've made some measurements up here on the wall for the locations where the shelves will be installed. Use the level to check and make sure they're going to be nice and even. Now for building the shelves, these are some screws that I've really liked. They're Spax brand construction screws for use in wood, masonry, sheet metal, drywall, plastic, says all sorts of things. But 3 different sizes work great on this project. 1 1/4 for going through plywood, 2.5 inch for securing 2x3s and 2x4s together, and 3.5 for putting securing 2x3s through drywall into the studs behind the wall. I'll include a link to Amazon where you can pick up these screws. Highly recommend them. They drill straight through the wood on their own and are just phenomenal to work with. We've got the first shelf held up against the wall, and using the level, I'm checking to make sure that it's horizontal, and it is. So we're going to put some screws in. Use the stud finder, or make sure you find the studs in the wall you can knock, or use the stud finder to find them. Once you get your first screw in, double check that it still is level.
Still at its level.
And then put another one in. Alright, I'm going to get 3 or 4 screws across each board to make sure it's got the appropriate support. Alright, now we'll repeat that with the shelves up above. So we're getting the second shelf lined up.
I'm on one of the painting one, on a fence.
So now we've got the back of the shelves secured to the wall. Let's take a closer look. So on each of these shelves, I've put 4 screws in. Again, I used 3.5 inch screws. Make sure they went all the way into the stud behind the drywall. Kept an eye on the level throughout installation of these shelves, and got them all set up. And now we're going to build the shelf itself. So let's take a look at that. Alright, now to build our shelves, here's one that's already prepared to build the shelf itself. I've got at the hardware store, I had the 1/2 inch OSB board, and I had it cut at the hardware store to the dimensions. So in this case, we took a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of 1/2 inch OSB, and it was cut right down the middle to make it 2 foot by 8 feet long. And then the front of the shelf, I lined up a 2x8. a 2x3. This is a 2x3 piece of lumber. Lined it all the way along the front, and screwed the OSB right down to the front at 4 spots along it. One other consideration, as you assemble the shelf, one side of the OSB is typically smooth, the other side is typically rough. I like to put the smooth side up, so it's the top side of the shelf where you'll be sliding boxes and things on top, and it'll feel nicer on the hand as you brush against it. So to assemble this, we're going to take and line up the 2x3 with the front of the shelf here, and keep it straight all the way across. I'm going to use this other 2x3 to help support it. And then I'm going to use 1¼ inch screws to hold it in place. Alright, so we've put these two pieces of shelving up. Let me show you how that was done. On the top here, I put some screws, 3 screws along the back, 2 along the side to secure the shelf into the 2x3s. And then under the shelf, I use this framing angle right here to provide support. Now our next step, we're going to get our vertical 2x4 supports measured and cut so we can put the shelves across the front in place. Alright, the next thing we've done, the vertical post here that's in the front, the 2 foot by 4 foot post, is measured and checked to make sure it fits properly between the floor and the ceiling. It's fitting very nicely. It has just a thin bit of space at the top. Sits flush to the floor. I've checked the other one. Now on the other one, we're going to come in 2 feet from the end of the boards, coming in about 2 feet to where that vertical post will be. And that should give us enough strength that we only need the 2 posts in the front of the shelves. So the next step is to start putting these shelves on. So to get the shelf in place, we're going to take the bottom shelf, set it in place, and then we'll take our 2x4s that have been cut to the correct height and we'll clamp them in. Once they're clamped to the front, you want to check and make sure you're level on both the vertical 2x4 posts. Check that level on each side of the board, well, in both directions on the lumber, to be sure the post is running straight up and down. So first we're going to screw in along the back of the shelf. We'll get 4 screws across the back, and then we'll screw in the post at the front using 2 screws in each post. These are 2.5 inch construction screws, self-drilling. And then we clamp it in place at each of the posts, there and there. With that held in place, again, we're going to check for so in checking the shelf, we're sloping forward on this shelf. So I'm loosening the clamp slightly. Once the clamp is loosened a little bit, you can bump the shelf up until the level is where you want it. Tighten the clamp back down and repeat with the other. Then double check your level before you screw everything down. Now these are the Simpson hangers that were used. I'll include a link on Amazon where you can pick up some of these for hanging your boards. Alright, to help join these two together, we use a framing angle again. Get it in like so, and screw it in place. This might be a little bit awkward. Now our shelves are really beginning to take shape. We've got them secured nicely to the wall. To add a little bit of rigidity, we're going to add some supports under the middle and some furring strip behind. So let's take a closer look at that. To get some support on the shelf here and give it some rigidity, I'm taking some 2x3 with these framing angles that I've secured on. We're going to secure those on the shelf just like that. That'll help give the shelf some added strength and rigidity as it gets loaded up with weight. Alright, one of the things we're going to do to add some support to this is put some furring strip, 1x4 or 1x3, and we're going to run it right behind our posts in between the shelf, and that will allow this upper shelf to rest on the furring strip. So to do that, draw a line right where you want to cut, and then go cut your board. Once it's cut, double check your fit, and then take some wood glue, nothing fancy, in this case just some Titebond 2 wood glue, and squiggle it up there, and then put the board against. You're going to set the board up so it's sandwiched in place nicely and providing some support up there. And we'll just put a couple screws in to hold it in place while the glue dries. In this case, we're going to use some 1 1/4 inch screws so they'll suck into the stud behind but not come through the front. So you can see how we put the cross bracing down through the shelf. I'd put 4 of them along this 2 foot by 8 foot long shelf, and using these framing angles or framing hangers to help hold them in place worked quite nicely. Well, here we have the finished shelves. It's been a good project. Took a few hours to put together. Could easily be done in a long morning or on a busy Saturday. Thanks so much for watching Tomahawk DIY. Like the video, leave some comments. Check the links below for Amazon where you can pick up some parts and supplies. And have a great day.